Frank, Adanma is pregnant, her mother declared, her voice stern. You must pay her bride price and marry her. Frank was stunned. What? No, this can't be happening. In the serene village of Umofia, nestled among lush hills and vibrant fields, lived two inseparable friends, Tony and Frank. Their friendship began in childhood, strengthened by countless shared adventures and trials. They were the epitome of brotherhood, always having each other's backs and navigating the complexities of village life together. Tony was the calm and collected one, known for his thoughtful demeanor and dependable nature. Frank, on the other hand, was more spontaneous and outgoing, his laughter often echoing through the village. Despite their differences, their bond was unbreakable. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the village, Tony and Frank sat under their favorite mango tree, discussing life. Frank, you know I've always admired your relationship with Ada. You two seem perfect for each other, Tony remarked, a hint of envy in his voice. Frank smiled, his eyes twinkling. Ada is amazing, Tony. She's everything I could ask for. But lately, she's been pressuring me about marriage. I want to marry her, but I need to save enough to pay her bride price. It's a lot of money. Tony nodded sympathetically. I understand. It's important to be prepared. Just don't let the pressure get to you. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a new girl in the village. Adanma was strikingly beautiful, with an air of mystery that intrigued many. As she walked past, she caught Frank's eye, but he quickly looked away, focusing on Tony instead. Who's that? Tony asked, curious. That's Adanma. She just moved here with her family, Frank replied nonchalantly. But I'm not interested. My heart belongs to Ada. Adanma quickly became the talk of the village. Her beauty and confident demeanor attracted attention, and many young men vied for her affection. She had a striking presence, with her long, dark hair and expressive eyes that seemed to hold secrets. Adanma carried herself with an air of sophistication that set her apart from the other village girls, and this only added to her allure. Despite the attention she received, Adanma was drawn to Frank, the one man who seemed uninterested. She watched him from a distance, intrigued by his loyalty to Ada and his apparent indifference to her charms. One evening, as Adanma walked to the stream, she overheard a heated conversation between Frank and Ada. They were standing near the water, their voices raised in frustration. Frank, we've been together for years. When will you marry me? Ada's voice was filled with desperation and anger. I've told you, Ada. I need more time. I want to give you a proper life, but I need to save enough money first, Frank replied, his tone weary and strained. Ada scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. I'm tired of waiting. Maybe you don't love me as much as you say. Frank sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. That's not true, and you know it. Please, just be patient. Adanma saw this as an opportunity. She had been observing Frank for weeks, and she knew this was her chance to get closer to him. She approached him the next day, her intentions clear and her charm turned up to its maximum effect. Hello, Frank, she greeted, her voice sweet and inviting, a coy smile playing on her lips. Frank looked up, surprised to see Adanma standing before him. Oh, hi, Adanma. What brings you here? I couldn't help but notice you seemed troubled yesterday. Is everything okay? Adanma's concern sounded genuine, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Frank shook his head, trying to dismiss the tension in his voice. It's nothing I can't handle. Just some issues with Ada. Adanma smiled sympathetically, stepping closer. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. Sometimes, it helps to have a friend who can listen. Frank thanked her, but his mind was preoccupied with his problems. He didn't notice the glint of determination in Adanma's eyes or the subtle way she touched his arm, trying to forge a connection. Days turned into weeks, and Adanma continued to find ways to insert herself into Frank's life. She would accidentally run into him at the market, offer him help with small tasks, and always make sure to compliment him, feeding his ego subtly. One day, Adanma decided to take a bolder step. She prepared a basket of freshly baked bread and fruits and went to Frank's hut. She knocked on the door and waited patiently. Frank opened the door, surprised to see her. "Adanma, what are you doing here? I brought you some food. I thought you might appreciate a homemade meal," she said, holding out the basket. Frank hesitated but then accepted the basket. "Thank you. That's very kind of you." As Frank ate the meal, Adanma stayed, chatting with him and making him laugh. She was clever, finding ways to bring up his issues with Ada without seeming too intrusive. "You know, Frank, sometimes relationships need space to breathe. Maybe you and Ada are just too close right now, and it's causing tension," Adanma suggested, her tone casual. Frank nodded thoughtfully. "You might be right. We've been arguing a lot lately. She wants to get married, but I don't think we're ready." Adanma's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. She was slowly planting seeds of doubt in Frank's mind, hoping they would grow and push him away from Ada. Weeks passed, and the tension between Frank and Ada grew. One night, Frank found solace in a local bar, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. As he stumbled back to his hut, Adanma saw her chance. She followed him, finding him drunk and mumbling about his troubles. "Frank, you shouldn't drink so much," Adanma said, helping him inside. Frank slumped onto a chair, his eyes glassy. "Ada doesn't understand. She keeps pushing me, and I don't know what to do." Adanma sat beside him, gently placing a hand on his arm. "You deserve someone who appreciates you, Frank." In his inebriated state, Frank didn't resist as Adanma leaned closer. That night, she slept with him, exploiting his vulnerability. The next morning, Frank woke up with a pounding headache and a deep sense of regret. He was shocked to see Adanma beside him. "What did we do?" he asked, panic rising in his voice. Adanma smiled, unfazed. "Don't worry, Frank. Everything will be fine." Frank's shock turned to anger. "Get out of my hut, Adanma. This shouldn't have happened." Adanma left, but the damage was done. Frank was consumed with guilt and fear of what Ada would think if she found out. A few weeks later, Adanma returned, this time with her mother. They confronted Frank at his hut. "Frank, Adanma is pregnant," her mother declared, her voice stern. "You must pay her bride price and marry her." Frank was stunned. "What? No, this can't be happening. I won't marry her." Adanma's mother glared at him. "You have no choice, Frank. You've brought shame to our family." The news spread quickly through the village. Ada found out and immediately broke up with Frank, heartbroken and furious. Frank was left alone, his life in shambles. Depressed and despondent, Frank isolated himself, refusing to see anyone. He was haunted by his actions and the consequences they brought. The once cheerful and outgoing Frank was now a shadow of his former self. Meanwhile, Adanma, too, was struggling. She confided in her mother, expressing her fears. "I can't marry Frank, Mama. He doesn't love me, and I can't force him." Her mother sighed. "I understand, Adanma. But you need to think about the child." Adanma was torn. She didn't want to raise a child in a loveless marriage, but she felt trapped by her circumstances. Tony, always the supportive friend, reached out to Adanma. He had harbored feelings for her since she moved to the village but never acted on them out of respect for Frank. Seeing her distress, he offered a listening ear. "Adanma, I'm here if you need to talk," Tony said gently. Adanma looked at him, grateful for his kindness. "Thank you, Tony. I don't know what to do." As they spent more time together, Tony and Adanma grew closer. He provided the support she needed, and she found solace in his company. They began to hang out more, and their bond deepened. One day, Adanma confided in Tony about her fears. "I don't want to marry Frank. He doesn't love me, and I can't raise a child in such an environment." Tony took her hand, his eyes filled with compassion. "You deserve to be happy, Adanma. You shouldn't force yourself into a situation that will only bring you pain." Their connection blossomed into a romance, and they became inseparable. Tony's genuine care and support helped Adanma navigate the difficult situation she found herself in. Tragically, as Adanma's pregnancy progressed, complications arose. One evening, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen and was rushed to the village clinic. The doctor, with a grave expression, informed her that she was having a miscarriage. "I'm sorry, Adanma," the doctor said gently. "There's nothing we can do to save the baby." Adanma was devastated. The loss of the pregnancy was a heavy blow, but Tony stood by her side, providing unwavering support. He helped her through the grieving process, assuring her that she was not alone. As Adanma recovered from her loss, Tony continued to be her rock. Their bond grew stronger, and they decided to build a life together. Tony proposed to Adanma, and they got married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. The village, once abuzz with scandal, now saw a story of redemption and new beginnings. Adanma and Tony's love blossomed, and they built a life filled with hope and joy. Frank, on the other hand, remained isolated and depressed. He had lost Ada and couldn't bring himself to face Adanma or Tony. He realized too late the consequences of his actions and was consumed by regret. Adanma and Tony's happiness did not erase the pain of their past, but it gave them a future to look forward to. They focused on their love and the life they were building together. One day, Frank mustered the courage to seek forgiveness from those he had wronged. He approached Tony and Adanma with a heavy heart. "I was wrong, and I'm sorry for everything," Frank said, his voice filled with remorse. Adanma forgave him, her heart filled with compassion. "We all make mistakes, Frank. I hope you find peace." Tony extended his hand in friendship. "Let's move forward, Frank. We can all learn from this and become better people." In the end, the story of Tony, Frank, and Adanma became a tale of love, forgiveness, and resilience. It was a reminder that even in the face of mistakes and heartache, there was always a chance for redemption and new beginnings. And so, the village of Umofia continued to thrive, its people bound by the lessons they learned and the strength of their community.